So this is a 1947 Flxible bus, a Clipper model, serial number 7665. It currently resides at the Liberty Aviation Museum in Port Clinton. If you're not familiar with the museum, it sits on the shores of Lake Erie in the town of Port Clinton, which is about halfway between Cleveland, Ohio and Toledo or Detroit, so about an hour or so drive from either of those two locations. It is probably more known for its aviation side, obviously given the name of the museum, and that they are the owners and operators of a B-25. But among their collection now is this bus, which again, 1947 Flxible bus, or I guess Flxible Clipper. So when you get into the hangar, information was a little lacking about the bus. They did have a little stanchion. They had a notebook that had some information about it. So that shared that this, again, is a Clipper model, serial number 7665, manufactured by Flxible in Loudonville, Ohio, for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. The engine is a 331 cubic inch 6-cylinder white Super Mustang manufactured by Rio. The transmission is a 4-speed manual non-synchronizing transmission with manual steering with air assist. The brakes are air. The length of the bus is 32 feet and it's 8 feet wide. And the dry weight of the bus is 14,500 pounds. And because it was used for airship operations, it has a reinforced chassis and a roof that can accommodate blimp mooring or a blimp mooring mast. And the bus was restored by John Lingefelter. So this is just a little bit of the walk around of the vehicle. The information that they provide about the bus, it says that the Liberty Aviation Museum learned the bus was available and asked Mr. Lingefelter to undertake the restoration project. So I'm not really sure who owns it then. Is it the museum's bus, or did they kind of commission the work to get it restored on behalf of someone else? It's not real clear in the documentation that they have for the bus available to the people that visit the museum. So doors and panels were open, so you could kind of peek in, I guess. Didn't say not to, and as we were kind of around the museum, we kind of saw people doing the same, so I took the opportunity to open the back of the bus. Never seen in the back of a Flxible. Turns out there's not much in the back of a Flxible. I kind of imagine there'd be more engine back there, but there just isn't. And this is the data plate that shows the builder number on it. It's kind of hard to see there. It's the black and silver of the two plates. You have the Flxible company. It looks to be a relatively original, at least correct to the time period, fire extinguisher there, for what it's worth. So it has historic plates, so I'm going to take that to assume that it's roadworthy and you can drive it around. I don't know if they have any plans to do so, or do they take it to any particular events. Kind of nice to see it driving around here, what it sounds like. So these things on the side, I can only assume are collapsible foot climbing station. I know you put your feet on them, you can kind of climb up the side, assuming there'd be a mast on the top that the blimp would be attached to or attaching to, that a crewman could climb up there and take care of whatever business that he had to do. So the inside of a bus was available. Again, the door was easily open, or was kind of open when we got there. But you can see that the back of the bus has no interior work done yet. I did have someone reach out to me, probably a year ago now. I don't know what stage of the restoration of this bus, but they were asking in some research that I was doing about Goodyear airship operations, had I found any pictures of the inside of this bus, and it's probably for research on their behalf to try to figure out what the inside of it looked like. So I don't know if they've had any luck with that. A lot of the Goodyear records, or photo records at least, reside at Akron University, so that's kind of where I pointed them. They said go to Akron University Special Collections and see if they have anything. So just a straightforward mechanical open and closing mechanism, nothing special about that. So the information that they're showing on the little notebook there talked about how the Flxible Company in Loudonville, Ohio was originally formed in 1903 to build sidecars for motorcycles, and that eventually led to the making of buses. And so in 1946, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company contracted with the Flxible Company to build 3 Flxible Clipper buses for use for their airship operations. 2 would be in 1946 and 1 would be in 1947, this is the 1947 bus. The 3 buses were modified with outriggers and a mast that folded up from the roof. The buses were used to attach the Goodyear blimp as a mobile mooring vehicle. When the blimp was in town to cover an event, it would be stationed at a local airport. This bus could hold the blimp in place or move it in and out of a hangar if needed. So it was retired from Goodyear in 1967 and was sold and converted into a motor home for somebody. And went to Flxible rallies in Loudonville. And then, as most projects do, it eventually fell into disrepair. So the owner at the time, I guess in 2014, the owner of it was getting complaints, or neighbors were complaining to the city about the eyesore that was the bus. And the city gave him 30 days to remove it, or they would be fined. The owner advertised it for sale, but because of its condition, no one was interested in it, and they were considering cutting it up for scrap. So members of the Flxible Club, it sounds like, tried to find a home for it, and through that they contacted John Lingefelter, I apologize if I keep mispronouncing his name, and got it into his hands to restore it. And he took it off of the owner's hands that were getting in trouble from the city, and he fixed it up. So apparently John got it to a improved state of condition, but not ideal, and then he had tried to sell it. And while being at the Piston and Power Show in Cleveland, that the owner of the Liberty Aviation Museum saw his advertisement to sell it, and then he asked what it was price-wise, and he'd be willing to pay it, basically under the condition, though, that they would pay him more to complete the restoration as we see it now. So then in December of 2018, the bus was finished in the state that it's shown in now, and they delivered it to the museum. They said that they had it towed there, or at least hauled there. I guess maybe wherever it was restored is far enough away they couldn't drive it on the city roads. So yeah, I guess that answers my original guess that was incorrect, or I guess the confusion of who owns it. So the museum does own it. They basically paid the previous owner to finish his restoration and leave it in the state that it is. So it's kind of a pleasant surprise to see a bus at an aviation museum, and especially a bus that actually has some history and connection to Northeast Ohio, with the Goodyear blimp operations being in Akron, not too far away from here. So if you're ever in the area, again, Port Clinton, Ohio, and along the shores of Lake Erie, just down the road from Cedar Point Amusement Park. So if you're in the town to see some roller coasters, a quick 20-minute drive and you'd be in Port Clinton. And you can see this bus as well as all the other vehicles and airplanes and even boats that this museum has. So they say the Liberty Aviation Museum, it's more than aviation. They got everything from tanks to jeeps to airplanes to bombers and even a PT boat from World War II. So well worth a stop. An amazing bus, great restoration. Hopefully they're able to figure out the whatever they need on the inside and get it fixed up completely. So I'd love to see it on the road. So there it is, a 1947 Flxible Clipper.